episode of Watch Jericho. We are here with my $3,500 run drive C5 Corvette, and we're gonna figure out how bad it is. What is going on, guys? I am Watch Jericho, and today, like I said, we are here with my newest cheap, we're calling this one Wet Vet because it's sucked up some water at some point in its life, C5 Corvette. Arctic white, I think that's the white this is, with a torch red interior that's beautiful, minus the fact the driver's seat bottom's gonna have to be replaced. But today, we need to hop under here and figure out what's going on with this engine, or at least get like a good idea. So today's game plan, we're gonna do a leak down and a compression test and just find out what's what. And if it's bad enough, if it's in the bottom end, like rods, we'll obviously pull the engine and have it rebuilt. Unfortunately, I'm having a terrible time finding drop-in engines for less than like $3,000 for this. And if that's the case, I can get a rotating assembly for like $1,000. So send it off to one of my local machinists and unfortunately have an engine rebuilt. So who knows how long that could take. I want this thing to be back together in like a week. We'll just have to see what happens. So first things first, engine covers off. These just pop right off. A couple of studs here. And it's weird to even have these, honestly. Just so many cars are missing them. And we can see immediately it needs a valve cover gasket. Oil all over the place, but not too bad. And that'll help us, having this off will help us get the plug wires off. Let's go grab the other side. Have to pull the oil fill to get this one off. Come on. Ooh, gross. Water came out of there. Like a lot of it. So let's just start with the most fun thing. Ooh, a milkshake. We're in trouble. Step one, trouble. So that is not good. This is, I mean, take a look at it on my hand there. Looks like chocolate milk, smells like chocolate milk. I'm not gonna do it. It doesn't make any sense. So, well, we already know we're in trouble with this thing. It's probably a bottom end. If it's got a milkshake, not a good deal, especially having a bunch of miles on it after that, because they've driven it. I mean, I've run it for 15, 20 minutes. Even a few minutes with a milkshake in the oil is a bad deal. And obviously here in the oil cap, we got the nasty goo, looks like mustard, whole bunch of water buildup. And here in the oil fill, we got more of it. So that's obviously bad. I think just right out of the gate, we're in trouble. We'll go ahead and do a compression test. That's not gonna hurt anything in a leak down. And we'll just kind of go from there. But just guessing, that much water, rods. All right, plug wires coming off. We'll try not to damage these, although it's almost impossible. Like nearly every time you pull these nonsense plug wires off, they get hurt, which is why I love to switch to Holley's ceramic ones because they're way better. They save space. They don't have this dumb thing on them because they're ceramic. A heat shield. Ooh, that one was already damaged. Barely on the coil is the answer. Anytime these plug wires have been on a car for a while, they typically are just completely stuck. I can't tell what these say they are. Ultimate heat protection, made in USA. It might be a good wire. Now for the fun plug wires. The driver's side's harder than the passenger side, that's for sure. All this EGR stuff that I love to delete. Really just the air pump, but we're doing pretty good here. I have a pretty good record of ruining these every time, at least one wire. That's why we have a stack of old ones that we can throw on because they still work, because you only break one every time. So you end up with a whole bunch of spares. I've never felt a spark plug this tight in my life. Oh, that was all my strength, I promise you guys. Those spark plugs were so tight, they were getting close to breaker bar level there, which is kind of impressive. Let's see what we got here. Well, lots of oil around the seal, like a ton of it. Auto lights, automatically terrible, but it is a platinum or something. You can tell it's got that tiny little electrode. So, already that looks kind of bad. On to the next one. I don't know if whoever put these plugs in knows this, but LS1s are aluminum heads, and you don't need 55,000 foot-pounds of torque on your spark plugs. You just need to like snug them up. Okay, we're getting our compression test set up. Starting over here on cylinder, what this should be 2, I think, something like that. All right, go ahead and crank it. I went ahead and unhooked the ignition so we could stop all those shorts to ground there. It's hard on the coils, but we have a 155 PSI there. So that's really good, honestly. All right, next cylinder, go for it. One more, seems a little low. All right, there's 150, close enough to 10% for me. Yep, ready for the next one. Yep, there's 160, and it almost looked like it was climbing past 160. All right, last cylinder, go ahead. Keep going. Yep, 160. All right, we're starting on this cylinder because the other one's a huge pain to get to, so we'll get there eventually, but go ahead. Uh-oh. That don't make no sense. After like 5 seconds of cranking? All right, go ahead and try to crank it again. What on earth? We have tons of battery power. Well, I had to lift this thing up because I was trying to turn the crank pulley since it's weirdly like up on compression and the starter won't turn the engine over. I don't know what happened, but it just locked up on us as we pulled the plugs, which is pretty wild. So I did notice this thing's all pushed in and bent up, so we might be able to bend this back into position. All of this little metal that holds the front air dam. The radiator's brand new, which is actually awesome. Take a look at that. You can see the metal's brand new. The problem we're having here is trying to turn the crank pulley, and the bolt is right behind the rack, and there's like no accessibility in there. So I'm gonna try to put a wrench on it. Maybe we'll have some luck. Thermostat housing, brand new. Nice shiny metal. Obviously we found the alternators new. Wheel speed sensor ripped out completely. So that explains a good bit of you know, the errors on the dash. It was having traction errors. Shock looks okay. Shock looks okay. All the suspension up front looks good. Boots are intact on tie rods. Yep. All that looks good. You can hear the wheel bearings. They sound fine. Brake drag. We got a stud broken off the exhaust here, which is, it doesn't appear to be leaking, but you know, somebody tried to work on that and it snapped off. The other side's good. Starter's been replaced and beat on a bunch. I wonder if it's a bad starter. I might give that thing a wrap. You guys can see somebody's been beating on that starter a bunch. So there's a chance that that's jacked up. So we'll take an extension and a hammer, give it a hit, see if it starts turning over again. Following down the back of the car, the exhaust is intact. Torque tube, no real leakage there. Coming into the trans and on back, it's all pretty dry, just a little bit of like slight seepage from seals. Sway bar end links are completely missing all of their boots. I'd say those are trash. This shock looks like it's going. It's in park, so we can't spin the rear wheels, but you know, I expect those to be in pretty good shape, all wheel bearings. This shock's trash. If you look up in here, you can see it's soaking wet, so it does need shocks. And then this exhaust has probably been apart a few times. It's leaking at both gaskets here to the back, and I kind of wish we had a real exhaust for this car. It would be cool. Oh, this exhaust has been down a bunch. Somebody's been working on this car quite a bit. Other evidence, O2 sensor, retainers, the clips and stuff like that, they're all out, just hanging. It's had a lot of work done on it over the years, I assume, and then just got to a point where it was time for no more work. So let's get a hammer on the starter, drop it back down, and see if we can make the thing turn over. All right, time to beat on the starter. Okay, so we got underneath this, and with a 24 millimeter wrench, I think it might actually be a 23, but I was able to get the crank to turn, so it's obviously not seized or anything like that. And as you guys saw, gave the starter a couple of wraps, so here we go again. So we tried turning this thing over by hand. We were not having any luck. Try one more time here. Please turn over. Hey, all right, all right, all right. Go ahead and crank it a little bit more. Okay, you're good. So there's still 160 on that cylinder. I guess we keep right on going now that it's turning over again. It could be a dead battery and the jump pack's not giving us a good connection there. I sure tried, but let's give it a little wiggle. Before we continue, I have to fix this mess. Obviously all these leaves will go into the cowl and not come back out, so. All right, now we're on the back cylinder here. Go ahead. Nope. Battery's too dead, I think. So we are back, and on the rearmost cylinder, driver's side, let's go ahead and crank this thing, and hopefully it cranks today. It's been on the charger all night. Keep going. All right. Well, that one looks pretty bad. We're at 130. Every other cylinder's been at what, 160? All right, one cylinder up. Go ahead and crank it. You're good. There's at least a 160 again. I think we've seen enough. We checked every cylinder except for the very front one here because it's nearly impossible to get into. They're all coming up 160 across the board except for this rear one, driver rear there. So I think our next step here is to rip that valve cover off. So I'm gonna grab a 10 and we'll go to work. Obviously we've already got the coils unhooked, so it should just take a few seconds to get it all out of there. And today I think we're gonna try to remove the valve cover without pulling the alternator. It's a lot easier with the alternator out, but there's a chance we can do it without pulling it. So here we go. I think I have all the bolts off of this. Oh, this one's gonna fall. There we go. I got it. Coil packs are off, and then we need an 8 to pull the valve cover. This is how valve cover should be. Unlike that dart. Gonna have to turn that up. There we go. Turned all the way up. These things are so easy to change the gasket on, and they're so easy to work with. Just better. Good old General Motors. Now we gotta snake this thing out of here. And let's see if we can, oh, it's all, again, all milky, full of water. This gasket was leaking anyway. So our assumption is that this is the cylinder that's down, and it almost, I mean, it's tough to tell, but it really does look like that very back push rod is bent. I mean, obviously, I think the engine's coming out no matter what because there's too much damage with this chocolate milk oil, but go ahead and crank it. Let's see what we see here. Keep going. Well, it sure looks like everything's actuating as it should. Let's pull the other side off. It really doesn't make sense for it to be the other side because obviously the compression test was perfect over here and we did run a leak down or two and we were seeing good numbers out of that. Where's this damage at? Time to pull the coil packs off the passenger side and we'll run through the same thing and see what it looks like cranking with the valve cover off over here. So, whoop. One down. And our last bolt here. You will need a swivel to get back under the cowl. And there's our coil. Let's switch to our 8 here and drop the valve cover. This job goes very fast. Get in the valve cover this faster than you can do anything else. And our last bolt here. Okay, time to crank it on the passenger side here, and we're gonna take a look at how the valve train runs. The other side looked perfect, so go ahead and crank it. Everything looks great. Again, maybe it's a rod. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to the iPhone, and we're gonna shoot some slow-mo of the valve train running. You can see it right here. To me, the valve train looks perfect, so I mean, let me know in the comments what you guys think. It's got to be the bottom end at this point. Well, let me know if you guys saw anything abnormal. The valve train looked like it was perfect on both sides to me. I don't see anything wrong with the top end. And you know what? Water damage is typically a rod, so I guess we could kind of make that assumption, even though I was truly hoping it was in the top end of this engine. Either way, chocolate milk's a very bad sign for an engine. It means that the oil wasn't lubricating correctly. So now we know what's wrong with it, or we don't have any idea what's wrong with it, one of the two. So with this C5 Corvette, I think I'm gonna break my own rule and rebuild this LS1. I hate to do it, but it's probably just a rod bearing and maybe a crank. I mean, obviously that's kind of where we're going if there's nothing wrong with the top end of the engine. So LS1s are crazy expensive. There's quite a few around me, and all of the ones that are cores, so they won't guarantee the engine, and it might be trash, are $1,300. And all of the run drive ones, I mean better than this condition, $2,500. And I can probably send this thing over to the machine shop, have them put bearings in it, put a full set of pistons in it, and if we need to, for like $1,300. Yeah, a whole rotating assembly can be bought for that. So apparently it's very hard to buy a cheap drop NLS. The last one I had my kind of my eyes on and a friend owned went for $1,000, and that's the one I wanted. We'll see what happens. I'd like it to just go back together and be a stock nice driver, but at the same time, it's a great time to modify these things when you're in there, and it's just so easy to do. So there you have it. That is what's wrong with my $3,500 C5 Corvette. It'll get a polish after we get the engine done, and the seat will be heading over to an interior shop soon. I'll take you guys with me when we go over there. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchcargo.com for cool shirts just like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. I was sure hoping for an easy smoking gun on top of the engine, but we're pretty close to getting the engine out already. Next step, you get the intake off, and then you just drop your lift plate on. We've got a lift plate that goes where the valley goes, and get the hood off of here. And the accessories, some of the accessories, probably just the alternator, and out she comes. It's not a crazy job at all. Shout out to Dimitri for sending this crazy care package from Canada. We have all the Canadian things here, like real maple syrup, and just so much cool stuff. Mars bars, candy forever. I mean, this is pretty much what I live on exactly. So huge shout out to you. Coffee crisps, but this is what I'm here for. This is my real diet every day. We're gonna try some real El Original Joe Louis. It looks pretty delicious. Just what I expected.